Stampers, welcome. I'm Pat Fairless from Fairless Stampin Flair, and I hope you're having a great day, whatever day you're watching this, you're watching the replay, wherever you are. I hope it's bright and sunny. I am recording this on Sunday before it airs, and we are having a gorgeous sunny day, a little cool here in Southeast Michigan, but it is sunny. So any day we have sunshine, I'm happy. I have a card. I'm just going to show you how to do an easy way to watercolor. The card I'm going to show will be on my blog post tomorrow, and as well as my Facebook page. And I'm going to make a slightly different version of it. We'll get to that. It's not a lot different. We also made this in my stamp camp this month, and I think the ladies liked it. And so they had some questions about the coloring. So I'm going to show you this form of coloring, which is with watercolor pencils. So let's just go ahead and flip the camera down and get started. So this is the card we're going to make. This particular card is a sympathy card. Our theme this month for Stamp Camp was every so often. And we make cards that you don't need often, but when you do, it's nice to have one on hand. So this is a sympathy card. It's always nice to have at least one sympathy card on hand, because sometimes when we need one, we're not always in the mood to make that kind of card. They're not the easiest to make sometimes. This is made with the Gallery Blooms bundle, and the sentiments are from another stamp set, and I'm forgetting the name right now. What was it? The Right Words. It's a great stamp set. It's got a little bit more variety. So I'm going to show you how we colored this flower, and I used watercolor pencils. But let's first just go ahead and get this stamped. We did emboss it with black embossing powder. So I'm going to use my embossing buddy and just rub my cardstock down good to get any static off. Hopefully get it off. And then we will stamp this with Versamark. And here's my Versamark. And then heat emboss it with black. I could have done this before, but I just thought before we started, but I just thought we'd go ahead and do it now. I should grab my paper piercing mat and stamp it on here. This is a photopolymer stamp, and sometimes you get a little bit better image if you put it on a little bit of a cushion. The paper pierce mat works well. Any kind of firm foam pad you might have would be fine. And I usually, when I stamp with Versamark, I like to hold it there for just a few seconds to give a little bit more opportunity for the ink to transfer. I could do this on my Stamparatus, which would not be a bad idea, probably a good idea, because if I miss a place, there's no way I can replicate stamping it back in the same location twice. So we'll just, and I usually apply a generous amount of embossing powder. I know some people sprinkle it on very sparingly. I know my stampers do sometimes. It doesn't use more or less if you put a lot on or a little, and I want to make sure it's well covered. And then just tap it off. Sometimes I'll flick the back a bit, and we will go ahead and heat emboss that. Get that out of the way. And I should have heated my heat tool up first. But of course, I didn't think of that till I just turned it on now. I usually hold it about an inch, 1 to 2 inches away. This is regular basic white cardstock, so I don't have to be too careful. I'm going to pick it up because I can see when it changes better. Sometimes black is a little hard to see. I love the metallics because you can always see those so much better when they turn. And if you're using white or clear, you want to make sure it's shiny, and preferably you don't want to overheat it. Let me pull it out, and I think I need a little bit more down here. This doesn't look shiny yet. There we go. Now I can see it. All right. That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and watercolor this. Just touch it, make sure it's cooled off. And I'm going to use Flirty Flamingo and Granny Apple Green for the leaves. And I'm going to use my water painter. And I'll show you after I color it. So on this one here, I don't know how well you can see it. Hold it up close and try to hold it still so the camera can focus. If you look carefully, this flower here is colored everywhere. These two I did after, and I thought I'm going to leave a little bit of white just around the edges. And I kind of liked that better. I thought it gave it a little bit more life. So that's what we're going to do today. And with watercolor pencils are probably, if you haven't done a lot of coloring, this is the best place to start. Number one, they're inexpensive. I have assortment too. And in here you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 colors. And I'm not exactly sure how much they are right now, but they're a lot less expensive than blends, for example. So I just I said I'm going to put the color only at the base of the flowers. And the hardest part is figuring out where's flowers and where's leaves. Sometimes it's not always so easy to see that with these images, at least for me. And I'm just going to go around. And the nice thing I like is very easy to control where this goes. And I don't think about using watercolors often. I have my pencil quite dull. You get less lines with that, but the way I'm going to show you, it doesn't really matter. So if you like a little bit finer tip, just sharpen your pencil a little bit more than I did. So if you can see, I still have white at the tips, and I'm now going to take my water painter. Make sure it's not too wet because this is basic white cardstock. I should grab a paper towel in case I squeeze too much out. I can squeeze it and then I can dry it with this. You don't want it very wet. You want it just wet enough so that it blends the color. So let me pick this up and see if you can see it. So I've blended this little petal right here, and these others I haven't. So on the others, you can still see the pencil squiggles. And this just kind of evens out your watercoloring. And you don't even have to be careful laying it down because you're going to get rid of all those lines with your water painter. And you can also pull the color towards the tips. If you stayed a little bit further away, you want a little less white, just pull the color in that direction. Again, make sure this is not very wet because this is regular white, basic white cardstock, and you don't want it to get too wet because cardstock just isn't really meant to handle water, regular cardstock. If you want to make sure you keep it away from the tips, then pull it in the opposite direction to smooth it out. So let's go ahead and do these others. I am not a fast colorer, so I like to take my time when I color. But you can see I'm going any which direction here, and it just really doesn't matter with watercolor painters because, again, I'm just smoothing out my color with the little damp water. And if you get it a little dark with pink Flirty Flamingo, you really don't have to worry about it because it's not a dark color. But if you want it lighter, you can add a little bit more water and it'll lighten up. And again, I'm going to try to stay on this one. I'm going to try to get a little bit more white on my tips. And again, sometimes it's a little hard to figure out what's flower and what's leaves on some of these stamped images. At least I have trouble with that. You probably don't. Okay. And I'm going to try to pull from the white down. And you could probably see I'm scribbling over here once in a while. That's just to make sure it isn't too wet and also just to take some of the pink off. But the nice thing about the pencils, like I said, they're inexpensive. You still get the blended look like you do with blends, but I think they're a little easier for a lot of people to use. I know yesterday at my stamp camp, they're like, can you teach us how to use blends better? I get lines. Well, I'm like, how often have you practiced? Because once again, everything's better with practice. So sometimes just take your time and just have fun coloring. With this also, you can color the whole thing at once. And I don't think I got quite enough cooking down here. I'm losing my embossing powder. That's all right. We can fix that. Probably not with embossing powder, but we'll figure out how to fix it. That spot didn't turn shiny, obviously. I'm just going to finish this first. It also gets very quiet at stamp camp when we color. I think most people find it relaxing and they just get quiet and concentrate on their coloring. Okay, so you can see I lost pretty much all of my embossing on this tip. I didn't cook that quite long enough. So I'm just going to take a black marker. Let me grab my black marker, find it. And I'm going to use the fine tip end. It's going to look a little different. So it probably won't be quite as black as the embossing. But you know what? Whoever I send it to, they probably won't know the difference. I'll put a couple coats on to get it a little darker. There we go. That's another thing. Everything can always be fixed. Well, maybe not everything. Sometimes you do have to throw it away, but it is just a piece of paper, right? So let's go ahead and die cut this with the coordinating Gallery Blooms die. I'm going to use my little mini cut and emboss. And we will lay that on there. I am going to put down a little bit of washi tape just to kind of make sure it doesn't move on me. And that looks like it should stay pretty well. And with this small one, it becomes critical to just stagger your plates. It just really, really helps with the cranking effort. I probably got it staggered way more than I need. And actually, I'm going to move this up on here just a bit. That's why I put down some washi tape. So if I had to move it around, and we will just feed this through. See how easy it really goes through as long as you stagger those plates. And there we go. There is our flower. So we can just go ahead now and start assembling. That was really what I wanted to show you. And I'm going to bring it up close. And I hope you can see the tips are lighter than the base. If I wanted to come back and darken it up a little bit more, I can. If I wanted a little bit darker color, that's the other nice thing with the water pencils. They're very forgiving about adding more color. And then just take your, I want to keep it down here, so we'll just add a little bit darker shading on the at the bottom of the flower. Okay, and you can see it is curled a little. Part of that's die cutting, part of that's embossing, part of that's water, but we'll add enough dimensionals to make sure it sticks flat, or lays flat, I should say, right? Let me, where's my, here, lost my adhesive. So I pre-embossed this, dry embossed with the embossing folder. It's called Beautiful Pattern Embossing Folder. I do believe it is on the last chance list, went on the last chance list this month. I like it because it's subtle. Some of our embossing folders make a really, really heavy embossing. And I didn't want the embossing to overshadow the pretty of the flower. So, and my frame, instead of gray and white, this is smoky slate, I'm going to use black and white. Black and white cards have always been one of my favorites. With some pop of color or some other color in combination. I don't know that I've ever made a 100% black and white card without another color. Oftentimes red is my go-to, but yellow's great, pink is great. There are some blues that look, Pool Party looks really pretty with it. The new in color hydrangea hue looks awesome with it. So just play with your colors, and you can use it as just a pop of color, or you can use black as the accent. But I've always really liked black and white cards with one other color. So today we're using pink, and the watercolor pencil is 30 Flamingo. And that will be the pink we have here on the front. I guess I should make sure I'm not off my camera. And we're just going to lay this over here a little bit on towards the edge on the side. Now, when I put this on here, I'm going to put my dimensionals so that they are stuck in this area and not on the frame. I'm not going to add a whole nother depth of layer. So I need to, this part of the flower is going to be on the frame. So I'm going to keep the dimensionals away from that. And then the other ones are pretty much over the center. And I probably need to snip a little bit smaller piece let's see. I'm going to cut a little strip off from this for the stem. I use every little bit of these dimensionals. So we're going to put this little skinny piece down here on the stem. And then I probably need one more right there. I'm adding a few extras. I'm going to grab my small ones for over here, mainly because I want to make sure it flattens out and stays nice and flat. So we'll get these backings off. I know I should be using the take your pick tool, but I like using my fingers better. It works better for me. No right or wrong. Do what works best for you. Okay, there we go. And for the sentiment, I'm not going to make another sympathy card. I have a couple in my stash now, so I'm going to make a birthday card. But again, I am using the Right Words stamp set. And we're going to use this one to someone we're celebrating every day, and then we'll put happy birthday on the inside. And I die cut this with the brand new dies from the Silly Old Bear Suite. One of the bundles you get is Sweet Words and Label dies, and these dies are just awesome. So I'm using the smallest one here, and we're just going to stick this on right here. But before I do that, we're going to add a little piece of pink ribbon to the back. So I'm going to cut, I don't know, that is probably more than I need. 10 inches or so. And I'm just going to fold it over. And I'm going to lay it right about there. And we're going to put it right here across the back. And I'm laying it up here because I want to get the angle that I want it at before I adhere it down. And I want to get the right amount to up here. And then I'm just going to lay a piece of tape. Pick it up, keep it in place. And I'm just going to lay a piece of tape right across there. Or maybe not. Okay. I need a new roll of tape. I'm going to have to double check this because now it's moved on me. I'm pretty sure it has moved. I don't want it tilted too much. Okay, let's try that. And we will just lay this across the back. And before I push it down too hard, I'm going to flip it back over. Not too much tape. I got something, a little black thing here. Blow off the dust. And that'll work. So now what I have to pay attention to, unless I want to raise this up again, which I really don't, is I want to get my dimensionals out here and then it will just lay over this. But because I've got this ribbon here, I am gonna put 2 layers of dimensionals on each side so that it crosses over this and gives room for the ribbon. Otherwise, it could cause my sentiment to not want to lay flat. It'll curve. And before I pull off the last backing, let's just try it to make sure I got them where I want them. And that'll work. So now we can just take this off. And lay it in place and try to get it straight. Not always the easiest thing, is it? And I got my ribbon scissors, and let's just go ahead and shorten these up. Should I do them both same direction? I don't know. That'll work. So there we go. Now, bling, a little more bling. I found these pearls, pretty pink pearls. They're not pretty in pink. I don't know which pink they are, but they're close enough. They're called blooming pearls. And so I am just going to add a couple of these up here to my card, just to give it that finishing touch. And I'm going to take a little tiny one and maybe set it down here in the corner. And our card front is done. I like the black too. I think the pink even pops more, especially for birthday. You want it a little more lively than maybe you would a sympathy card. I don't know that I'd use this color combination for a sympathy. But for birthday, I think it's fun. So the inside, I've got a pink mat and an image here, and we are just going to stamp happy birthday with black memento. Get it nice and inked. Check it to make sure it looks inked. And where do I want it? I'll leave enough room to write my little personalized note. And I'm also going to stamp a little flower down in the corner. Maybe. Maybe not. Where's my stamp set? Here it is. I'm going to use this little stamp, this one here, and we will color that. Just because we can. Not necessary, but it feels like it could use a little something, maybe, with some flower. So we'll put this down here and move the ink out of the way before I stick my card in it. That's my favorite trick. It happens way too often, so I've always learned to just close my ink, or I will manage to drop something in it. And let's just go ahead and color the whole thing. So we're going to color these leaves with our granny apple green. The sympathy card, I did use Old Olive. I just thought I'd brighten it up a little bit with the granny apple green, just to give a different feel. And I think I missed that spot right here. I'll grab this. And just kind of even out some of our pencil marks here. You can tell I'm basically just scribbling. No need to be careful really with watercolor pencils. I lost my adhesive again. It's like right in front of my nose. Okay. Get that on the inside, finish up our envelope, and we will be all set. There's probably everybody I send a card to always likes flowers. So I have a few masculine ones in my stash, of course. Now I need my paper back here to put this on there. The reason I do it this way is because if I glued it here, I'd have glue down here. That's just how I am. So I always stick a little something under there, scrap paper, or edge of your grid paper. And I do like to try to get it fairly close to the edges, because we know the post office doesn't treat our beautiful handmade cards always so kindly. And we'll make sure our flowers are going the right direction. All right, we are done. We will trim this off. This is designer series paper from the, oh, I don't even know what it's called. Made with Love, I think. It was the Valentine's Day suite in the current mini, the January through April mini. It's from that suite. And they had Pretty in Pink, and it was flowers. So I'm like, that'll work. We need to do something. No naked envelopes. And there we go. Here's this one. Now, I don't know, which do we, let's lay these side by side in the same way here. Clean the garbage out of the way, so you don't have to be distracted by my bits and pieces of garbage. And which one do you like? Do you like the gray or the black and white? I think they're both pretty. This one I think is definitely more appropriate for sympathy. This one's got more pop of color. It's a little bit more oomph to it, is probably what my mom would say. So let's put our camera back and wrap this up. All right. Again, hope you're having a great day. Thank you for watching. If you learned anything, can you give me a thumbs up? That would be great. If there's ever anything in particular you would like me to share, my stamp campers are pretty good at that. They're like, how about teaching us this? How about doing this? So I appreciate that. It's great to have input. So leave a comment, would be awesome. And have a great day. God bless. We will see you next week with something else.